What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So before I get started, I just wanted to again just say how much that I appreciate all of the support on these last few videos, the likes, the comments, the sharing, the subscriptions. It really means a lot, and these videos are fun for me. I think I want to call these type of episodes like Garage Talk, and I just like talking about cars in general, especially the Cobra, and I like helping people out. I've learned a lot, over the last 10 years of what works well with these cars, what doesn't work well, the mistakes that I've made. So if there's people out there that I can help out, that's a good feeling. So that's why I do these videos. So without further more said, I want to today talk about how do you make 900 plus horsepower on the stock axles, and why do we sometimes see people making 500 horsepower break the axles, and then you see cars making 1,000 horsepower not break the axles. So I'm gonna kind of break it down into two segments. Segment one is gonna be, I want to talk about the parts that I have broken on my car and why I think it was. And part two, I want to talk about the parts that I recommend you buy that I have had really good success with. And Mr. Steven Alexander, I saw your comment. You're getting your video on rear ends. Granted, these are not the rear ends you see on Instagram. Although I'll be honest, I think my car has enough pictures of her online that, man, if I would have put up an OnlyFans account for her, I'd be rich. All right, part one, the parts that I have broken. So I've broken two main drivetrain components, I would say. The first part that I broke was the rear differential cover. Now, I had what was called the IRS brace. A lot of cars out there probably have IRS braces on them. Your car probably has an IRS brace on it. Some people think it works well, and for me, it did work well up until it didn't. This was, I think, 2013. I had my Whipple 2.9, the Gen 2, and I was at the dragway, nothing serious. I'm not on bias plies, dumping the clutch at, $5 grand. But you've probably heard wheel hop does kill the drivetrain in these cars. Probably that's the same with every car. So I was at the dragway, made a good couple of passes. Well, good for me. Not an expert here. I'm not an expert driver. And I drove home. I didn't think anything was wrong. I wake up and my dad called me. And he said, hey, he goes, I didn't know you blew your motor up at the track. I says, what the hell are you talking about? And he goes, go look at the back of your car. It's covered in oil. And it was. And, I'll put in a couple pictures here. I cracked the rear diff cover, didn't even know it, from the wheel hop, very likely. The cover flexes, and then it just develops a hairline crack, and you lose your oil. And you basically torch everything on the inside. You need to replace almost everything. So that's part number one that I broke. And again, in part two, I'll talk about how to stop that from happening, or how to better prevent, because you could still break these parts. Part number two was more recently. It was in Ocean City, Maryland. And I was on the dyno. I made 770 to the tires. I had the same 2.9, but it was on Ignite E90. And I remember leaving the dyno, and we did a pull, and it just kind of felt, I just thought the car was slipping, spinning the tires at its new power, but something just felt a little bit loose. And anyways, I'm driving down somewhere outside of Ocean City, Maryland, and this really loud GTO pulled up. And I didn't hear any supercharger or turbo sounds, and I'm like, it's not gonna be much of a race. So we did a pull, and I put a really big hurting on him. And the guy tried to like motion to me like one more pull. And this pull, all of a sudden, it was like half a car. We are fender to fender. And all of a sudden, my car started to, again, do this. And I had to let out of it. And I'm like, what the hell happened? Come to find out, I had completely destroyed my rear wheel bearing. The axle nut got loose. It literally, the hub disintegrated from the inside out. Why did it happen? Well, there's a couple theories on it. You know, I know the nuts are torque to yield. You're only supposed to use them once. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know, but it sucked. I ended up having to tow my car home. It was just completely unsafe. I went and got a new nut and tried to like torque it down to 250 foot-pounds. It was tight for about 2 miles before it came loose again. So I ended up needing to put, you know, a brand new wheel hub in it and all the works. You know, it kind of also damaged the tie rod a little bit. It was a kind of a shit show. So those are the parts that I've broken in the past. Now, I said some cars at 500 horsepower break the axles and some cars at 1,000 don't. Well, it really just kind of depends on how you drive the car. Am I a hardcore drag racer? No, I'm honest with you. Have I gone a few times? Yeah. Do I do a bunch of highway pulls? Yeah. I'm kind of in the middle between being a really easy driver and like an extreme drag racer. You know, if you're in your car and you're doing 5,000K or 5K clutch dumps all the time on drag radials, you're probably gonna wanna upgrade your axles. If your car is just kind of like a highway car and you want to kind of cruise around, do a few pulls here and there, I've shown that you can 100% keep the stock axles, although time will tell. So, parts that I recommend. Number one, it's really simple, guys. Just go to Lethal Performance and type in full tilt boogie racing and get the complete IRS bushing kit. I believe it's $6.99. I'll leave a link down below here. Honestly, you buy that kit and almost all of your problems are solved. It is tricky to put in. I believe it's the differential support. You have the front and the rear bushing. It's half aluminum and half Delrin. Yes, it will give you a little bit more gear whine. Yes, it will give you a little bit more vibrations, but it's absolutely worth it. It also has the upper control arm, the lower control arm, and all the subframe bushings, all in one kit. It's pretty complicated to put in. Again, if you're just like an oil change, you know, spark plug mechanic, this one's gonna be over your head. You know, pay your trusted mechanic to do it. It completely transforms the car. The last part that I recommend buying is the Ford Racing differential girdle. That's another really important one. So basically our stock covers are just stamped and they're like super thin. Again, that's why mine cracked. They're really thin. They're very weak. You want to get the Ford Racing diff girdle. It's super thick and super beefy. It really helps keep the IRS together. I mean, you could go solid rear axle, but for how I use the car, I really like staying IRS. The one tip I'll remind you guys on is make sure you fill your differential to the correct amount of fluid. Most people, me included, overfill it by just a little bit. I think it's like 1.6 or 1.8 quarts. And if you go a little bit over and you do 140 mile an hour pull, let's cut to the chase. You own a Cobra, you're probably doing some pulls. The fluid sloshes around so much, and there's a vent tube, and it's gonna push a bunch of fluid out the vent tube, and you're not gonna know it until you get home and you realize your exhaust is covered in differential fluid, your bumper is covered in differential fluid, your entire underneath of your bumper is differential fluid. So make sure you read the directions. Don't quote me on it. Like I said, I think it's 1.6, but make sure you follow instructions. And that's really about it. It's pretty simple. Just get the full Tilt Boogie racing kit, have somebody put it in, or do it yourself. Like I said, you got to drop the IRS subframe out. Easy for some, hard for others. Get the full Tilt Boogie racing, get the Ford Racing differential kit or differential cover, and be done with it. It's that easy. So that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Garage Talk. Leave me comments. Tell me what next, the video you want me to do next. Maybe you'll do it. That's about it, guys. For now, stay safe.